A few weeks back I did a review of the latest Civic Type R, and after driving it I deduced that it was a fantastic car to drive, amazing handling and savage power whilst retaining great comfort. However, I took issue with the fact that it looks like a car designed by a 14-year-old with a price tag fit for a well-off retiree. In essence, unlike Type Rs of old, it's a car its target audience can no longer afford. But this is more like it. This is the Civic RS. Same practicality and same features, but in a more affordable, usable, and less crazy looking package. To me, this is how the Type R should look. There's no denying when you look at this that you know it's a sporty car, but it doesn't look overdone. There isn't a massive fake carbon fibre lip all the way around, it's just normal painted bodywork. There's far fewer fake vents and scoops everywhere, and there's just a nice small subtle spoiler on the back. My favourite part is the design of the wheels. I like that Honda went with the same machined finish that everyone else is doing, but then darkened it to make it look more sporty. The LED lights remain too, which give the front end a very distinctive look. The engine is a 1498cc turbocharged 4-cylinder with VTEC. It makes 127 kilowatt and 220 Newton meters of torque. Power is sent onto 18-inch wheels with 225mm wide tyres through a CVT transmission. But the CVT is the enemy. It's the dreaded transmission of the car enthusiast. How can I possibly say this is a great car with a CVT? Well, I thought the same thing. However, I've come to realise that in actual fact, provided the engine produces enough power and torque low down, having a CVT mated to it is not such a bad thing. Let me give an example. If you drive up a hill in a Jazz S with 73 kilowatt, the engine's got to do over 3000 RPM just to accelerate a little bit. So it screams and it drones and it drives you insane. But now here's the Civic RS. Because it makes so much torque, the engine barely has to rev above 2500 RPM just to make it up this hill at a reasonable pace. And besides, if the droning does get a bit annoying, you can just use the pedals to make it behave more like a normal transmission. The interior is a lovely place to sit. The high transmission tunnel and steeply raked dash give a classy feel to the cabin. Almost everything is made from soft touch materials, and the lovely leather wrapped steering wheel feels fantastic. The heated leather seats have full power adjustment and leave plenty of room in the front and back seats for taller people. It's got the full Honda sensing suite, which gives you all the boring collision mitigation systems and adaptive cruise and lane keep assist. There's so much automated stuff in this car that on a relatively straight bit of road you don't have to touch the pedals, steering wheel, wipers, lights, transmission, climate control. Literally everything is automated. There's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto too, as well as plenty of places to charge devices. You know, these days everyone seems to gravitate towards small SUVs, but I really do think there is still a market for a moderately fast, feature-rich hot hatch like this. You see, compared with a small SUV like an HR-V, Kona or CX-3, the drive of the Civic is on another planet. It holds the road very well, corners flat and level, and doesn't look like a chromey hatchback on stilts. But hey, rather than telling you how this car drives, let me show you. Alrighty, here we are driving the Civic RS, and what I want to talk about is this transmission. This is a car that looks like a hot hatch, but it's got a CVT. What's going on there? Well, if you look at it on the face of as just a car, it really is rather excellent. It has a great infotainment system, and of course it has the lane watch camera as well, like I was talking about in the Type R videos. So you can just push this button here on the end of the indicator stalk, and there's your lane watch camera to see who's in your blind spot. And it obviously has a nice looking digital gauge cluster with a whole lot of good readouts in the middle of it and so on. It's got nice quick steering, which is especially good for being in town. You know, one rotation lock to lock is all you need. However, I only really care about how this car drives as a performance car. This, with a manual, would be my perfect car. Like, hands down, if you could get this with a manual, I would be saving up right now to buy one, and I would just keep it for years and years and years. There would be no reason to get rid of it. It would be the best car in my mind. But this does not have a manual, and as far as I'm concerned, at least in New Zealand and Australia, they don't make these with manuals, which is very unfortunate. So we're stuck with the auto. Thankfully, because it's turbocharged, it doesn't have that sort of droniness that becomes synonymous with CVTs. It doesn't have to rev anywhere near as high to accelerate at a normal rate. It's able to use the torque that comes in at about 2000 RPM. So even if you're accelerating reasonably quickly, it never really goes above about 3000 RPM, which definitely helps to get you better fuel economy and reduce the annoying droniness of the engine. We can just set the adaptive cruise control, put on the lane keep assist. and I can now take my feet off the pedals and the steering wheel, and the car will pretty much drive itself. Very, very good feature. Every now and then it'll tell you that steering is required to keep you awake, but for the most part it'll drive itself. But one thing's for sure, even if the straight line performance disappoints you, the handling will not, because this is still fundamentally the same basic chassis that you get on the Type R. The Type R obviously has a bit of extra strengthening going on, but fundamentally it's not really too much different. And this has some fantastic tyres on it. Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, which really are very, very good tyres. And so as a result, this car handles absolutely excellently. And it just feels so composed. I feel like, you know, if I use my Integra as an example, it does handle well, but I feel like it's a bit sort of jumpy and jittery and it bounces around all over the place, whereas this feels very smooth. You know, you can waft along here and it just doesn't feel like it's gonna, you know, do anything unexpected or anything like that. It just feels very safe, very composed, and it just has so much grip. It really does handle fantastically well. And yet I'm still in supreme comfort here. Like, you know, the suspension is not too firm, so, you know, it handles well, but it's like all these bumps and, you know, things in the road. Like in my Integra, this is a rough road, but in here, this thing's fine, man. Man, this is still, even despite the CVT, still not a half bad car to drive, man. Like, this thing is pretty darn good, I've got to say. CVTs have come a long way. They are an awful lot better than they used to be, to the point where now it can hold the ratios well, it's smooth, but it's still able to put its power down to the road. You know, the way this thing accelerates is pretty good, man. I'm not exactly redlining it, but like, it's not half bad at all. And the torque is just so good. You can feel that torque really, really well. This car is very nice to drive, but it still has pretty decent performance and it handles very well. It feels very composed, it's practical, it's got a lot of great features, and it's still relatively affordable. You know, cheap used ones of these are getting down to the mid-20s, which is perfectly affordable for, you know, your average Joe Blow. That is the Civic RS. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Bye.